So I was watching that Mickey Mouse animated show on Disney Plus, and I have to say, am I the only one that thinks it's weird that, like, for example, Mickey doesn't wear a shirt, but then Donald Duck doesn't wear any pants? I'm not sure exactly why they're blurring the line. Like, why is one of them exposing the bottom half and then the other one exposing the top half? I know it's supposed to be an animated series, and I shouldn't be digging too deep into this, but my brain is already working. I'm gonna have to get to the bottom of this. I'm gonna launch a full-scale investigation. I have to figure out why these animated characters only cover half of their body. Okay, that's just completely baffling to me. Not to mention Pooh Bear, again, only a shirt. Why? Explain it to me, Disney. Anyways, all jokes aside, let's get serious here for a second. I'm actually going to be talking about not only a franchise, but a line that I rarely talk about. It is from Hasbro, but it's not, like I said, a franchise that I cover too often, but I am a huge fan of. I grew up watching the Ghostbusters films. I remember, you know, seeing comic books, and I actually have a crossover t-shirt way back in the day when Transformers made a crossover with the Ghostbusters. I love it. And yes, I even love the newer projects. Why not? I'm just that kind of guy. Like, I'm not gonna bash the entire franchise just for a couple of weird films. They weren't great, but they're still watchable. I love them. I love, you know, the banter. I love the witty comedic timing. It was all very good. Not as good as the original ones, but still, I'll watch anything that's Ghostbuster related. So Hasbro decided to announce a new, like, rooftop showdown Ghostbusters 6-inch 4-pack. The set will include 4 proton packs, 4 neutrino wands, 4 plasma streams, a ghost trap, 1 PKE meter, as well as 1 pair of ecto glasses. And yes, the sets will include the 4 iconic characters here: Ray Stantz, Peter Venkman, Winston, and Egon Spangler. The set will be retailing for $100, and you can actually pick it up at the Hasbro Pulse website. At the moment of this recording, they're still in stock. However, I can't really promise that by the time the video goes up, but it's really interesting. You're paying about $25 per figure. Now, it's worth mentioning, it just depends on exactly what it is that you're expecting from Hasbro here, and I think that will really dictate whether you're interested in these, whether they look good or appeal to you or not. One of the bigger points of emphasis here has to be the points of articulation. They're very lacking. I mean, I'm trying to take a closer look at the mid-torso, and it doesn't appear that there's any mid-torso articulation from just the promotional images. I'm not sure if there's maybe like one of those ball joints at the mid-torso that help the movement a little bit forward and backwards into the sides, but there's absolutely no butterfly joints. Taking a closer look at the promotional images, I don't see any cuts on the legs. Usually there's like a cut on the upper calf, or I should say on the calf, and then one at the upper thigh. And that really helps with the mobility on the legs, especially if you're going to get the character into, you know, some semi-dynamic poses. I'm not expecting these characters to get into any crazy poses, but maybe, you know, something a little bit crazy where they're shooting their proton packs in like a, you know, semi-action stance, something simplistic like that. I don't think these figures are going to be able to do that for you. As I said, absolutely no butterfly joints. Apparently there may be some mid-torso articulation from the promotional images. I really couldn't see that. There were some people that were throwing those theories out there. There are no cuts at the legs from what I can see, and then the pants do appear to maybe get a little bit in the way of articulation. So I'm going to assume that the rocker and just overall the articulation on the ankles is not going to be very good. It's not a real big deal breaker, I think, to most people that are picking these up. I don't think they're expecting anything too dynamic or crazy from them. They remind me a lot of what they were doing with the Black Series line, where they were just prioritizing the sculpt and the look and the design of the action figures rather than the functionality of the articulation. And that's okay if that's what you're interested in. Most of these lines, you know, they're going to value one thing over the other. It's not like Marvel Legends where they have to have that balance, and the figures definitely have to get into some pretty dynamic poses because of Spider-Man and Daredevil and so on and so forth. With these, I think they sacrificed the articulation, but I don't think people that are collecting the Ghostbusters line really is going to care too much about that. I will say they're a little bit lacking overall. I mean, this is a 4-pack. You would expect this 4-pack to come with like a plethora of different accessories, maybe some interchangeable heads. You're not getting that either. Now, I repeat, these are just promotional images. These are just, I'm assuming, digital renders, so we don't actually have images of the figures, or at least I couldn't find any from the actual figures themselves. These are just digital renders that they showcase to get people really excited. But the likeness looks pretty good. I mean, I'm hoping that because they're not sacrificing so much, or because they're not porting so much effort into the articulation, that maybe they can port some of that effort or some of that budget into the sculpt work. I would love to see, you know, those little things that Hasbro is known for, like the little wrinkles across the face, maybe some facial expressions, even though most of them seem to have pretty basic head sculpts. But for example, Ray does have like a half closed eye. He's very expressive, and so I would like to see, as I said, those little wrinkles, a little bit of shade work around the hair, maybe a little bit of gray showing. I can't quite remember if the originals, they already had gray hair, but you know, just kind of like those minor little details that you wouldn't expect from, like, for example, Marvel Legends, but you would definitely expect from the Black Series line, which is what I think they're going for. Overall, I think this is a good set. This is definitely not an era where you can get anything from Hasbro for $25, and I think that's what it breaks down to. You're paying about $25 for each one of these figures. That's actually not that bad. You can't really get that with Marvel Legends or the Black Series line consistently. We constantly see stuff, you know, hiking up in price. We just saw the Tobey Maguire action figure going for like low 30s, low to mid 30s, and that's supposed to be a regular $25 Marvel Legends action figure. So just keep that in mind if you're planning on picking these figures up. Another point that I wanted to make here has to be about the proton packs. Those things look absolutely insane. There's a ton of detail, there's a ton of paint, at least from what I can tell in the promotional images, and I'm not sure if those are the original ones that they got, because I think they did release these already. These are kind of like not necessarily a reissue, but they're kind of retools of those versions. I don't remember how good the proton packs look there, but or if they're even reusing the same proton packs, but I'm definitely noticing a little bit more sculpt work and, you know, better paint apps all around. As I said, it's a promotional image, so I guess that there's no really paint being applied here, but if this is going to look anything like the live action product or the real product, then this is definitely an exciting 4-pack. As I said, this is something that I'm keeping my eye on. I love Ghostbusters. I grew up watching Ghostbusters. However, you know, there's only so many different things that I can collect, and this is one of those things that I've kind of, you know, always pushed to the side. But now, if you're interested in just like jumping in and completing the display, this is a great opportunity. You're picking up all 4 figures. You don't have to go out there hunting these down. If they're a separate release or if there's a build-a-figure that you have to complete, you don't have to deal with that. This is just a 4-pack, $100. And if you want to jump in these, if you're a big Ghostbusters fan, but you don't have any other, or you don't have any collectibles that are Ghostbusters related, this is a good, you know, kind of jumping in point where you can just jump in, grab what you need, and then move on to other collectibles and other franchises. But as always, this is just my personal take, my personal opinion. I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say. Overall, this is a good release. Nothing too crazy. I would have loved extra head sculpts, slightly better articulation, you know, more accessories, but as I said, $25 a pop really isn't too bad. As always, if you guys enjoy this type of rambling action figure content, make sure to stay tuned because we're uploading on a daily basis. And if you guys want to see more content coming from us, you know, just like more in general stuff, you guys can always follow us on Instagram. Same thing, Milk Mustache 007. Stay safe out there. Make sure to enjoy the hobby, push your action figures, play around with them. Stay safe out there, and I will see you guys in the next one.